Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Woodard Report podcast. This is going to be a super fun podcast episode today. I am very excited to welcome Tyler Otto from Specialized Accounting and the Unaccountable podcast to the show today. Tyler, welcome.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you for lowering your standards. It's nice to be welcome somewhere for once. So this counts as your charity work for the year.
Oh, well, I'm really excited to have you on. We actually met in person for the first time this week at the Growth Forum, and we've been kind of chatting for a while out in Zoom land or Teams
True
land.
story.
But it was really fun to meet you and your wife at the Growth Forum in San Diego. So we're both coming in kind of, pretty hot from San Diego. I got in the wee hours of the evening. And joining you guys today. So I was thinking my voice is sounding a little bit like that person that goes to bed really late. But anyway, so yeah,
Good conference.
oh, go ahead.
No, it was a good conference, but to your point, yeah, it wrecks your week after you come back. So I totally sympathize with you.
Well, it was really fun to meet you and your wife. And could you tell everybody, how did you had kind of an interesting segue into accounting. Accounting is not your discipline. Can you talk a little bit about how you got started?
Well, so yeah, I mean, accounting necessarily wasn't, but running a firm was not on our radar at all. So I was in corporate hotel finance for years. And short story version, my wife, who has a master's degree in biomedical engineering and several patents to her name, decided when we were having a kid, she wanted to do something from home, start a bookkeeping business, which I thought was really odd, but the girl's smart and she built a nice little 20,000 a year side hustle. Fast forward to the pandemic and I'm running hotel finance for things like Montage Hotel and Vail Resorts. And hotels didn't do so well during the pandemic. So when my job was disappearing, we either had to find a way for me to get a new job at, go beg Marriott and Hilton for a job, or start an accounting firm. And we kind of looked at each other. We already had a small little bookkeeping business. So essentially, I usurped. She hired me. Let's go with that. She hired me to come run that firm. And end of first year, 4 employees. Now, after 5 years, a 16 employee little 7-figure beast, and it's fun.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations for that. That's you entered the market at just the right time, and certainly have done things well. Now, let's talk a little bit about your podcast because
Yes.
that is super duper fun, high energy. How did that get started? What was the impetus for launching Unaccountable?
Yeah, so for those that don't know, Unaccountable is an hour of accounting trivia. Well, some accounting, some shenanigan trivia packaged up into CPE credit with a little bit of bromance involved. We started that because I'll be honest, my biggest thing, Heather, is I looked at all the big software vendors in this space and all the partnerships. And I was like, how do I get myself invited into those conversations that help influence this industry going forward? I want to have a seat at those tables. Unfortunately, usually you got to have a voice. So if we're going to start a podcast, well, everyone has a podcast. I didn't want to just start another one that's the same format. So I thought, what would I listen to? All the podcasts I listen to and love have 2 people with a relationship that I absolutely enjoy their banter and heckling of each other. And it feels like you're part of the relationship with them. I've always enjoyed ones where I get to kind of play along and have fun, and ones where they push the line a little bit on what they're allowed to do and say. So that's when I called up Jeremy and said, hey, do you want to do an loosely accounting trivia podcast? And yeah, we started that off. We produce it fortnightly so that we can keep up with still running our firms. And it's done everything we wanted to, except make money. Doesn't make money, but it opens doors and we have fun doing it. And it gets us connected with lovely people like you and Joe.
Yeah, no, it's super fun. I'm a big fan of podcasts. I've been doing the Happy Hour with Liz Scott for 8 years now, and then I've been doing the Woodard Report podcast with Joe now for, oh my gosh, almost 4 years. So it is a lot of fun, and it keeps things interesting, and also it forces you to keep your ear to the ground too, because you're talking about the industry and what's going on. Joe and I re-record weekly, so
Yeah.
you really have to stay on top of things.
And I find for me, because our format does have accounting facts, stats. We teach about sales tax and odd laws. We have rounds about, S corp elections and how you structure things, how you pay your kids and avoid self-employment tax. And like we make it a game, we make it fun, but that's essentially teaching. And the best way to learn something is to teach it. So we have to essentially come up with the questions, the lesson plans, how we're going to segue out of it. So it's actually a lot of prep work, but then it also helps me sharpen my skills. And it's something that I can then deliver those trainings in different formats to my staff. So it's not just for shenanigans and fun, even though that's what everyone sees. It definitely helps us up level ourselves and our team.
That's fantastic. And you're doing a lot of speaking around these days. I was in your session on niching at Accounting Today. You did a great job. What else? Where else are you going to be? I mean, I know you're going to be at Scaling New Heights. We'll talk about that in a minute. But
Yes. I mean, thanks to you, that's the feather in our cap. But I did GrowCon a few weeks ago out in Salt Lake. Just did Firm Growth Forum, doing Randy's conference, Bridging the Gap coming up here in July. And then I'm also doing a lot of, we're hotel specific at my firm. So, I've done, Association of Lodging Professionals, and like none of you will care, but there's this massive company that writes the Bible for accounting for hotels, and called HFTP. We're speaking at their conference coming up. We just, we're doing OHCE and Florida, Alabama campground. So it's like speaking, I find, is the easiest way to like just jumpstart the connections with anyone in the industry you want to connect with. Really crafting the perfect submission for a session, like it becomes an art. And thankfully, I have a team that helps me. I'm not amazing at that, but they help take my ideas and turn it into a very well crafted, witty, fun, punny submission. And that seems to go over well.
No, it does. It does. You're an incredible speaker. I really enjoyed your session. Speaking of your session, I wanted to dig in with you today about, you were talking,
Yes.
your session was about niching. And I
Yes.
remember at the beginning of your session, you were like, when you first start your firm, you take everybody. It's like you just put out the doormat. You're like, come on in, give me some of your money. I'll give you some services. But as you start to grow as a firm and you start to figure out what you're good at and you're less hungry and you start to fill your capacity, you don't have to do that anymore. And you start to niche down, or hopefully you niche down, because that really does make it, I think it sharpens your skills because you're hyper focused, and it also is a great way to brand your company. So let's talk about the downside of, and I want to say downside, but it's not always a downside, but it's always a little bit tough, especially for people like me that are super people pleaser. Mentality is, as you start to niche, you obviously need to kind of move some of those clients that aren't the right fit for your firm out. And I'd love to talk to you about strategies for doing that, because that's really hard for professionals, especially in our, in our business where we're really forging relationships with our clients, and they've come to depend on us. How do we do that? What are some recommendations that you could share?
So I've got a lot of opinions on this, because we actually had a massive year of firing clients, 2025. That was the year of, we had the hit list, we reviewed it regularly, and as we brought new clients in, we fired. We actually signed 28,000 in monthly recurring revenue in 2025. We didn't grow a dime in top line revenue, because every one that came in, we would fire one out to really refine our client roster. First and foremost, like once you get to that point where you no longer have to say, oh, you'll pay me, I'll do the work. Yes, sir. It's amazing, because you can target your marketing, and now it becomes rinse and repeatable. And I'll be honest, if I stayed a solo practitioner, I could take on any industry. Like, I'm not worried about it. But as you hire staff and you're trying to train people up that aren't as experienced as you, having a niche that you say, here's how all the softwares work, here's how deferred revenue works in our industry, here's how the prepaids work, here's what the guest ledger is within the hotel space, here's what occupancy tax is. Like, once you focus on an industry, you make your staff also look like the experts. And so it's an amazing skill. Now, to your question, at some point you got to refine. Well, we didn't fire every non-hospitality client. I think 20% of our client roster is still other industries. The thing we had to look at is, once we'd mastered a client that wasn't our niche, do we still like working with them? Are they ones that they're nice people, they get us info, they collaborate? If they miss a deadline on info, are they nice about it? And do they say, hey, that's our bad? Because those clients are wonderful. The ones that, ignore you for 3 months, then get a hold of you on a Tuesday and say, hey, I need it by Wednesday morning. Those are the ones that, they cause panic, they cause stress. And yeah, we put together our hit list and actively went through and fired clients last year that, the biggest question I asked my team is there a client that causes a pit in your stomach when you see an email from them? And if the answer was yes, and it was impacting your job satisfaction because they're either mean, abusive, argumentative, they're blamers about everything. Yeah, we fired those clients, but it has done amazing things for our company culture. So I don't know. I'm a huge fan of like have your hit list ready, and as new clients come in, swap them out, Indiana Jones style, right, with the sandbag. Do that.
I love it. Yeah, so I mean, what I'm hearing is that you're not firing because it's not a good fit for niching necessarily. It's based on culture. So,
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, the clients we find that are the worst ones to work with, it's more a personality fit. If they're, we have one client that resells commercial grade food equipment. They've been wonderful people for 4 years, and their check is amazing, and they're lovely. So we keep them on. We've also had some amazing hotels that are our dream property, but the clients are just not wonderful people, and we let those go because
yeah.
it was honestly destroying my staff's morale.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I've seen that too in my practice. And you're right. If you get a client like that that just is abusive, it just kills
Hmm.
your day, it kills your team's day. And honestly, you need to let those clients go quickly.
Hmm.
So yeah, for sure. Now, here's a question for you. So as far as strategy, so what I'm hearing is you're letting go for culture. So is it that letting people in the front door are niche only, or will you take clients that are not in your niche at this point as far as growth?
So, yeah, the biggest question, we'll ask is every marketing dollar, every conference we attend, every speaking gig I do is niche specific. We have one client where we do a couple of his hotels, but then he also owns an auto body shop and he owns a hardware store. And it's like, well, cool, we can do your entire life. It's not scary, it's not hard, we'll figure it out because we already have the client relationship. And I think you know this. The relationship is what costs money when it comes to time and effort. It's not the extra businesses. It's I can take a client that has 9 businesses, and as long as I'm dealing with the same person, it's actually really efficient to just tack on another business. It's when you have to explain how things work, touch base with a new different person. So for us, if you already have a hotel with us and you have other businesses, we'll take those on. So we have some that sneak in the door. Occasionally, a rogue stray will wander to our doorstep. And if we just really like them as a person, we'll talk about it as a team and be like, do we want to take this one? It's not often, but 2-3 times a year, we might take a stray in from the cold and go in a route we've never done before.
I love that. So, as far as the strategy of firing clients, what would you
Ooh.
say to a practitioner that is ready to do that and feeling a little weird about it? How should they approach it?
Yeah, I can tell you my first client I needed to fire, it took me 12 months to work up the courage to do it. The next one took me 9 months. The next one took me about 7, 4, 2. And then I had one client I fired within the first month just because how he's talking to my staff. I will say you get better at it. It's never easy. You never look forward to it. It's like firing an employee. You're always like, even if the employee deserves it, it's never enjoyable. It's never fun. And I'm sure a lot of the first time practitioners are worrying about negative Google reviews, negative pushback. I've yet to have it happen. Now, I'm not going to say it's not going to happen because it could, but we've never had it happen. And the way we vocalize it is we've never said to the clients, hey, we're getting rid of you because you're an awful human being that's destroying my company culture. We say, hey, we're aligning our client roster as we continue to grow. It's harder to find accountants, and we're aligning our client roster that is more specialized to our niche and the profile that we can deliver exceptional experience to. We don't think we can continue to deliver that to you. We're going to provide you this timeline for offboarding. Here's all the documents you're going to get. Here's how you access everything, your portal. You're going to say everything you're doing it for them, but you make it about them. You make it about here's what you're going to do going forward. Here's how we're setting you up for success. And you don't make it a conversation. You don't make it a, let's talk about, your transition. Oftentimes I'll just let the client know in a quick call with the email coming right at it. And you hold firm to that, but it takes practice and it will wreck the rest of your day.
For sure. Yeah. No, there is no easy way to do that. Um, all right. So here's a question. So because you're so focused on culture, what are some of the questions that you ask and some of the things that you look for when you're prospecting with a client, when you're meeting with a prospect in the beginning? How do you recognize this is going to be a good fit for our firm?
Yeah. So there's not a specific question. And this is why I'm always about like, I want to meet with a client over Zoom, Teams, Google, whatever. I don't do just like, hey, sign up on our website and we're your accountants. The big things I'm looking for is first off, are they coming to us from a different firm? Are they coming to us from an in-house employee? How do they talk about that prior firm? How do they talk about the employee they're trying to replace? I've had some where it's like, we've got this in-house gal. She's been with us a while. She's lovely. She's amazing. It's just not working. This isn't her specialty. She was great when we were at $1 million. Now that we're at 20, it's just over her head. And like, we want to support her, but it's time to change. It's like, oh, that's great. Other times it'll be like that incompetent explicative that has been with us, explicative. And, for 20 years, I've been carrying her explicative. And it's just like the way they talk about them. And I kid you not, we see this very strong dichotomy. If they talk about their former employee, their former accountant, even with the former accountant, I'll hear people say, my current accountants, they're knowledgeable, but we never hear from them, or they're nice people, but I think they're in over their heads versus those incompetent explicatives, like it's how they talk about the prior accountants is really the biggest indicator for us of what they're going to be like. And then also, are they personable? Like, can you joke with them? Can you be jovial? This is a relationship business. I'm not selling accounting services. I'm selling a relationship for someone to manage your accounting. If they don't seem like they can build a good relationship with my team, I don't want them.
No, fair enough. No, and I agree. I think, there's that gut check moment, right? When you're meeting with a client. And I think that it takes us a while, especially when we're first starting out, to trust that. Because we're
Yes.
hungry, right? We're like, well, if I don't take that client, and then a lot of us, I think, at the very beginning, like you said, you're hungry, you take anybody. There is a point where even if you're hungry, you've got to say no. That's happened to me in my career where somebody's come through the door and I just knew that it wasn't going to be a good partnership. So that would be my advice to people: is trust your gut, right? If
And there's never too soon to fire. Actually, so the very first firm growth forum I went to 2 years ago, I was in my room panicking because I knew I needed to fire a client. We signed this last month. Right before I went to the first session, I called and fired him. He got confrontational, but he was already just derogatory to my staff, sent an email on Monday night at 6 p.m. asking for something out of scope that we agreed to. And then at 8 a.m., not even a business minute had passed, was sending all caps emails to my staff. Why is no one responding to me? And it
Mm,
was just like, yeah, this guy's got to go.
yeah.
After 1 month, and I knew it. And it was just like, okay. And I've never regretted that decision in my life.
You typically don't. I mean, I don't think I've ever fired a client and thought, wow, I really wish I hadn't fired that client. So, oh my goodness. So let's talk about, I'm really, really excited. The Unaccountable podcast is a super fun format. And back in October, when we were reviewing our call for speakers, I got this submission. It was like, I want to do a game show. And you had actually submitted that as a breakout session, to have
Yeah.
people come and do a game show at Scaling New Heights. And I immediately said, no, no, this can't be a breakout session. This has to be on the main stage. So let's talk a little bit about what people can expect next month, on Monday afternoon, when you welcome some really high profile guests to the main stage.
20-second aside, I really hope you recorded the meeting when you called me because, I submit a submission and you're like, let's talk about this. And I thought I was getting called to the principal's office. And you're like, no, let's put it on main stage. Man, I don't know what my face looked like. I'm sure I was trying to play it cool, but inside I was freaking out. If you have that recording, I'm sure that's great fodder in a couple of years from now. But yes, on the main stage. So yeah, we got Don Brolin, we got Randy Crabtree, we got Tony Proctor coming up as our contestants to play Unaccountable live on stage. And I mean, this is, man, we've got a powerhouse just planned for them of games. And the coolest part is audiences are going to be able to play along from their phones, answering all the same trivia and climbing the leaderboard. And thanks to the sponsor of that session, Gusto, I mean, we've got iPad 11 Pros up for win, Meta Ray-Ban glasses, AirPods, the nice fancy
Mhm.
4 ones that fit over your ear. Like, they've really stepped up the prizes for the audience winners. So, like, I am just convinced this is going to, like, I don't think there's been anything like this at any accounting conference to date. We're going to do something fun here.
Oh, I am so excited. And the way it's all coming together, this is going to be a do not miss main stage. I'm going to call it a main stage event. So,
Yes.
so really
I've
excited
been
for that.
joking with stats, but, he's our opener. Thank you for
That's
putting it,
right.
we're right after him.
Yeah, it's going to be, that's right. We have Jason Stats coming in, who's going to be giving a keynote right before the game show. So that's going to be a really great session. And I mean, all of the main stage sessions are going to be incredible, but I'm really
They are.
excited for this one. So
No, this one, it's got the makings of, we're trying something that I haven't seen anywhere. And so, how do you get a panel and a discussion with three amazing firm owners while also playing a game, while also fitting in plenty of tomfoolery and guest interaction? Like, it's going to be just a whirlwind of go, go, go fun. But I'm super excited for this experience.
yeah, no, it's going to be great. And I definitely playing along is going to be fun. And those prizes from Gusto are incredible. So, how do you come up with the games? How do you come up with the games
Ooh.
that you choose, both on the podcast and obviously for our live game show?
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, there's plenty of inspiration, right? You played games on the computer when you were a kid, and you're like, oh, we can modify that. Um, other times it's just Jeremy and I goofing around on a phone call, and then we realize, like, oh, we could make a game out of that. We've got a Marco Polo channel with a bunch of firm owners, and if someone starts complaining about state sales tax submissions, it's like, oh, we could probably actually make a game out of that. So we're constantly asking ourselves, like, what are we educating ourselves on right now? What are we struggling with? What are we trying to up level? And it's like, well, we could probably teach the public about this as well, share our insights. But the way we teach is we make it into a game. But we do things, we do this or that games where, one of them was, is it the name of a top 100 accounting firm or a brothel in Nevada, which was a funny enough game to play. Yeah, you wouldn't think there was that much crossover that you couldn't tell the names apart. We would also, do games like accounting mashup, where you throw together a pop culture reference with an accounting principle, and the two words flow into each other. Like, the artist that sang the song with apple bottom jeans meets the financial statement reconciling cash to accrual. The cash flow writer, statement of cash flow writer. So, like, we do a bunch of stuff like that, where it's just like, how do you blend random pop culture trivia along with accounting and just make it fun? But Jeremy, we only do stuff if we would listen to it and enjoy it, then we'll do it.
That's super fun and creative. And what a great way to pull humor and creativity and fun into accounting. So, which I think accounting is fun, but I think, yeah, our non accountant listeners are like, why do you do this? But it's super fun.
No, it's an industry that it needs more opportunities to let loose. And so actually one thing we're starting today, I know this episode's going to air later, so sorry everyone, May 22nd you missed this. But every other week going forward, we're actually just doing for 15 20 minutes on a Friday afternoon live trivia where you can play from your phones, and whatever sponsor of the week, they're going to ship off swag to the winner. And we're just trying to do it as another way to engage the community. We're making no money off this at the end of it, but it's another chance to uplevel your skills, play along, and connect with the community with like a Friday decompression trivia game.
Awesome. Awesome. No, it's super fun. All right. So we can't have a podcast discussion without talking about AI.
Yes.
I feel like in today's, I mean, you can't. I think, in fact, when our episodes come out, it's like every week we do an article about our episodes, and every week it's about AI. So we're going to have to sprinkle a little bit of AI in here. And I want to know, number one, what are you doing with AI that you're super excited about? And number two, um, what do you think? I want you to give some advice to practitioners on how they can implement AI. What should they be doing?
Yeah. Okay. So first off, what we're using it for, I mean, all the common use cases, right? Like we're recording all of our client meetings and then consolidating it into a single spot so then we can get the context from our practice management system, the meetings, our phone system, and do client sentiment, where we at on projects. Also connecting it to our practice management system so then we can do morning debriefs and triages of what client questions are out there, what needs to be followed up on. We're also building the tools of um, there's a lot of good tax planning strategy softwares out there, but it's like it doesn't have all the context as easily. So we're building in our own tax strategy systems, bots that just help us figure out, okay, would they qualify for this, and building out our client profiles. And that's going to be a weird world in the future where it's like, I may not pay for any tax planning software. We're going to build it ourselves, just not because it's better, but because connecting all our context is just going to be the most important thing. So we've been using it a lot for that. Just solving one-off use cases, and then just automating our month-end close. Second question.
The second question was,
What
if
was
you're
it?
going to give advice to a practitioner today on
Yes.
AI, what would it be?
Okay. Second question. Where would I start? Like new practitioner. First off, I like usually with every tool I say go nuts, try and break it, figure it out. With the big caveat that this is a crazy, strange new world, dare I say, that data security needs to be incredibly forefront of mind. And for us, I encourage my staff use Perplexity for research, use Claude to come up with graphics and image, use ChatGPT to creative brainstorm. But if it has client data, we live in Copilot. And I know a lot of people mock Microsoft, but when you know how to choreograph that tool to configure it, it's in a fantastic tool. And it's also the only place we trust to put our client data because they already own our OneDrive. They already own our Teams meetings.
Mhm.
They know all our information. I am very big stickler to my staff that it all stays in one place, which is with Microsoft. So the new practitioner, get in there and start connecting tools, seeing what you can build out, watch YouTube videos, because you're not going to go astray as long as you do not connect client data to all these different tools. But Claude, I mean, you hear about it for a reason because they've made it so darn simple to connect every tool to them. And they're so configurable. I would start there and goof off with, okay, here's a process I do. How can I systemize it? If you're afraid of Claude, every single tool right now, whether in the last month or they're about to announce in the next month, is rolling out their own internal AI bots, and they're just getting better and better. Start playing with them, lean into it, train them up on skills because the next 6 months is going to look absurd as to how our firms operate. We will not operate the same in 2027.
No, we definitely won't. We're at, it's a hockey stick that we've never, it's the hockey stick of all hockey sticks. Right?
I mean, for now, but that's what we said about cloud accounting. That's what we said
Yeah.
about the electronic spreadsheet. That's what we said about the
Yeah.
industrial revolution. There'll be another hockey stick.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting to think about what that will look like. But you're right. There will be another
Mm-hmm.
hockey stick. So, and yeah, I could not agree more. I mean, definitely play, but play safely, right? So, there is a way to have, or it's important to know when you're using agents that there's read write, and read is pretty
Mm-hmm.
darn safe, right? Read is pretty darn safe as long as you're not sharing data back to a model. It's the write when you're just getting started that you want to be careful of. We're hearing some horror stories about people um, corrupting their database or even deleting their entire database. So you do have to be careful, not to scare anybody,
Yeah,
but just, yeah.
there was that software company that like half their code got deleted, and it wasn't even that the bot had access to the production, but it found credentials somewhere else and said, oh, I'll use these credentials to then log into production and make all these changes in the environment. Like, again, the bots are going to do what they want to do, and that's where it's just like you can't let it loose. And I mean, even some big players in the space, I don't want to out them, but one of our favorite practice management systems had a big mess up where if I shared a tag I put on a client that someone else created a custom tag and then pulled reports, I could pull it across their entire customer database, regardless of what firm they were at. It
Wow.
was like the big players are messing up with this stuff. And that's where
Yeah,
it's like, if they're multi-million-dollar companies that are goofing up on this, you got to be careful yourselves.
definitely have to be careful. So, and there's not a ton of education. We're getting more, but because it's so new, and because there are no, set standards yet, it's the Wild West. So, like I said, experiment safely. So,
And one thing you and Joe said a couple episodes ago, I do want to call back is like, it's cheap now.
yeah,
The cost is coming to AI. Don't be like, this is amazing. I'm firing my entire staff, because it's going to get more expensive once they get you hooked. It's just like any good drug dealer, give them the good stuff for free now and get them hooked. And then later on, it's going to cost more. It's not going to be as simple. That day is coming as the credits, the tokens are going to start to materialize. So just be
yeah,
aware of that. Don't go firing your whole staff.
yeah, absolutely. It will. That it definitely. We're already hearing rumblings of it when we're reading people's reports, that the pricing models are changing. So good advice. So yeah, so I it was really funny when you sent over your questionnaire to me. We asked about your key achievements, and the one that was listed here was the 2026 Dad Joke Champion. And so I'm going to ask you. I want to hear your best dad joke.
And you would think I come prepared for that. Spoiler alert: my marketing gal threw me under the bus for that one. But I do love a good dad joke, so
All
I'm up
right.
for the challenge. Bring it on.
Okay.
I mean, one of my favorite go-tos is what do you call a chicken staring at a pile of lettuce?
What's that?
A chicken sees a salad.
Yeah.
Um, this one's near and dear to me, but what do you call 10 rabbits marching backwards in a line? A receding hairline. As I said, very near and dear to me.
Yeah.
What's funny is when you get put on the spot and you're like, I can't tell that dad joke publicly on a podcast or I'll get canceled. So I'm really racking my brain right now. But, if Joe ever wants to have a dad joke off, I'm here.
Yeah, no, we definitely do. So we have Joe, Lamont, and Rick within the Woodard
All right.
organization that they do dad joke smackdown. So we're gonna definitely have to do a challenge. So
Bring it on.
yeah. All right. Well, Tyler, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This was super fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, scaling new heights. Like, it's going down. Everyone should be there. Come join us late on Monday.
Monday. It's going to be epic. I cannot wait. So, all right, everybody. That's it for today. We will see you next time on the Woodard Report podcast.